Hi, welcome to another episode of My Healthy Story. My name is Mandi Palmer. I'm a holistic health and wellness coach. And My Healthy Story is about sharing health and hope so that you too can get better. And today I'm here with Pamela Shook, a hypnotherapist and Reiki master practicing in Asheville, North Carolina. Pamela, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, Mandi. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been a hypnotherapist, which is germane to the techniques that I use to get better, for 26 years. And I was also, for 24 years, a puppeteer. So I had an artist in education. So that's my background. I'm not sure what else you'd like to know about me.
Oh, nothing, something, whatever you'd like to share. So what were your top 3 health challenges that you've experienced in your life?
Definitely the top is rheumatoid arthritis, and then iritis, which is an inflammation of the iris that goes along with rheumatoid arthritis in some cases. And the third is multiple chemical sensitivities.
I am familiar with multiple chemical sensitivities. I have that too. That's on my list. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate those health challenges, with 0 being healthy and 10 being the most severe at the time of their worst, when they were at their worst?
Well, rheumatoid arthritis would be 11. I think it was just absolutely off the charts. I thought was told numerous times that at best I would walk with a cane the rest of my life. And I was in a wheelchair for 3 years. Well, no, I started out 3 years ago in a wheelchair. And then, so that one was really the top. Iritis, I would say about an 8.5. It's an extreme sensitivity to light. And at its worst, during a flare, I have to lie in a dark room and can't do anything. No TV, no computer, can't go out in the sun. It's just completely shuts me down if I get to that point. And even when it's not at its worst, I can't drive. My vision is blurry, and there's a lot of pain involved.
And when you have a flare-up like that, how long does it last?
It can last from beginning to end about 2 months.
That's a long time to not be able to drive and feel like you need to be locked in a room.
Right. Well, the period of being locked in a room is usually pretty short. The period of having blurry vision, not being able to drive, having to severely limit computer time can be up to 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that was about an 8.5. And then the third one, the multiple chemical sensitivities at its worst, I would say about an 8. I would get really ill if I was in a room where somebody had been smoking, even if it was in the past. And I couldn't even walk down the aisle at the grocery store where they sold household cleaners. I would get violent headaches if I just even took a few steps down that aisle.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Cigarette smoke is has been one of my big triggers as well. That's a terrible smell. So you did share with us a little bit already, but what was it like living with these conditions? Can you elaborate on how it's affected your life?
Well, it was very confusing for a long time because it took me 20 years to get a diagnosis from the first flare that I ever experienced until 3 years ago. And so it was just very confusing, a lot of doctor shopping. And every once in a while, one of my joints, a knee or an ankle or toe, would just blow up for no particular reason that anyone could diagnose. And I would be out of commission for a month or two. I went through physical therapy 3 different times to learn how to walk again. And then 3 years ago, right before Thanksgiving, very suddenly, my knees began to hurt one day, and then the next morning I woke up and one of my knees, both of my knees actually, one of my feet and one of my hands was just blown up, were just blown up like a basketball. I mean, just huge, misshapen, completely unusable joints. So my husband had to take care of me. I could not bathe myself, dress myself, and you know, eventually they had to get me out of a wheelchair and pretty much onto a walker so I could go to physical therapy. And then I progressed gradually from a walker to a cane. And so it was very, very debilitating there. And in the middle of that, I had an iritis flare up. So then the few things that I could do, which were reading, watching TV, doing crossword puzzles, then I couldn't do those. I listened to the radio in a dark room and was extremely, it was very bad. It was very bad at that point. The multiple chemical sensitivities had been going on since I worked at a library that had mold in it, and became very allergic to all kinds of things at that point. So that had been going on for quite some time before that.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about not just being uncomfortable, not just having to deal with this or live with this. You're talking about 2 or 3 things that really debilitated you, keep you from seeing, from driving, from walking, from being able to do activities of daily living.
Exactly. Yes. My poor husband had to just take complete care of me for quite a period of time, and while he was working. And
yeah, I had something similar. I had a really severe, 3 really severe bouts of vertigo that lasted over a week. And I was laying down, couldn't open my eyes, couldn't turn my head, couldn't move at all. And he had to work and take care of me at the same time during that too. So I totally understand what you're saying with that.
Yeah.
So what did you try? What various methods did you try that you feel failed you?
Most of Western medicine, except for physical therapy, frankly. I did go see a couple of different rheumatologists before I found one that would work with me. And they wanted to put me on methotrexate. They wanted to put me on biologics. And I've always been very much into alternative health, so that the idea of suppressing my immune system just sounded crazy to me. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't imagine that that was a good idea. Mm-hmm. So I refused those, and then, as nicely as I could, but still that would brand me as a non-cooperative patient. Mm-hmm. So that was very challenging. I did find an integrative physician who worked with me for a while in Charlotte, and then he passed away. So I was kind of back on my own. What I realized after this very severe flare 3 years ago was that I had to start from the ground up. And as a hypnotherapist, what I knew was that the mind is an extremely powerful thing. And so I began, when I couldn't do anything but lie in a dark room, I had no way to entertain myself. I began to take these walks in my mind. I began to prepare myself to walk again. So I would just pick a place that I knew like the back of my hand, and I would take an hour-long walk. I would have my husband set a phone for me, and I would just like really picture with all 5 senses what it would sound like, feel like, everything, to walk, whether it was in my neighborhood or a beach I'd been to before, and to really start working on that. And then, I'm also allergic to almost every painkiller on the market. So my pain was just off the charts, and I could sleep for like 2 hours at a time, and then I would wake up. and I had no concept almost of night and day, kind of like being in solitary confinement. That's what you hear about that. So I heard about EFT, or emotional freedom technique, and that it could help with pain control. And I was just ready to try anything that my body would tolerate. So I took a course in EFT to begin to work with pain control, and I found that it worked really well. I could tap pain down from about a level 10 to a level 2 in a few minutes, and it would last for about 4 hours, which is about what I would have gotten from any painkiller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did mostly for pain control. My doctor had put me on steroids also, and I lost 36 pounds in 6 weeks because I couldn't eat. So in the middle of all this, I was eating. My husband was like, you got to eat something. You got to eat something. So I'd eat maybe 400 or 500 calories a day. That's about all I could get in myself. So it was quite a transformation.
Yeah. So you did a little bit of Western stuff, which is really just the physical therapy.
Right. Physical therapy did help a lot.
Yeah. And you did that 3 times.
3 times over 20 years, right.
Okay, over a period of 20 years. Okay.
Right, over a period of 20 years where I would have a leg or foot injury, and I would have to go through a couple of months of being laid up and learning how to walk again. And then it would be years before it would recur.
And no immunosuppressive drugs.
No immunosuppressive drugs, steroids for 1 week, and that was way more than enough steroids.
Yeah, and you had an integrated physician that helped you for a little while.
He did. He worked with mostly diet and exercise.
Okay, wonderful. Some lifestyle factors. And then conquering the mind over matter, using tools that you knew how to use, that you use with your clients, and using that to really find some success. And like you said, you were taking walks in your head. I think that that's so wonderful, so fascinating. And how much do you feel like that helped you?
I think that made all the difference, because before I started doing that, I really felt like my life was over, that I had no life. I really didn't. I laid in a dark room and listened to music. That was not the life I had envisioned for myself. And so to really take these principles that I knew and take them to the nth degree, and it helped me begin to believe, because once the subconscious mind believes that change is possible, the body will respond. And so I began to really shock my physical therapist with how much faster I was progressing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the tool of the emotional freedom technique also. So that you said you used for in replacement of painkillers. How else do you feel like it may have helped you?
How else do I feel like it may have helped me? Well, the same way that the hypnotherapy did. Again, it begins to block, not block, but it begins to unblock all of those negative beliefs that come in, and just extreme fear. There was so much fear connected with this. The isolation, and being told on top of that by almost every doctor I visited that you'll have to just learn to live with this. There's really nobody knows what causes it. We don't know what to do about it. So helping me to just counteract all of that belief system, I felt like I really had to be the one to believe in myself, and to believe in my ability to get better.
You know, nothing hurts me more than when people hear from someone in a white coat that this is how it's supposed to be for them. They're not going to get better. You know, for someone like yourself and so many others who have had their hope taken away by that power, and It's amazing that you were aware enough and informed enough to know what to do on your own, to mentally and emotionally and spiritually get yourself in a better place, a place for healing. A lot of people don't get over that hurdle that's put in front of them.
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful that I had that background and that I had those tools, because for so many people, a doctor's word is just law, and they're not going to look further, or they're so discouraged that it's hard to look further and it's harder to overcome that. So thank you for putting out what you're putting out into the world. It's so important, I think, for those of us who have gotten better to be able to spread that word.
Yes, I think it's so amazing and so helpful. And you have a truly amazing story too, with the level of how bad it was for you and how you are today. So actually tell us, on a scale of 1 to 10, how is all of this for you today?
I'd be glad to. I do want to interject one more thing,
Yeah,
jumping
go
back.
ahead.
LDN, low dose naltrexone, was huge in my recovery. That was one piece of highly unconventional Western medicine that began to really turn it around, so that last winter I had no joint pain for the first time in over 20 years. I mean, none. And boy, was it cold last winter.
It was.
We had a week of single digits.
Yes,
So
we did.
that was huge, getting through a winter that way. I got up this morning at 7 o'clock and walked 2.5 miles around Lake Junaluska. I do yoga several times a week, and I eat a lot healthier, because now the stakes are so much higher than they were. I ate healthy before, but now the motivation to really stay with it is more than my waistline will be smaller. It's I'm going to see, and I'm going to be able to walk.
Right.
And I'm going to have a life. So
Yeah.
I still have some bouts of fatigue. I still have some iritis. 2 or 3 times a year, I might get an iritis flare. Not usually anywhere near as bad as they were in the past.
That's awesome.
And I have more tools increasingly. And the icing on the cake was finally, I retired from my puppetry career because the physicality of it was just kind of getting to me, and I'm almost 65, so I felt entitled to do that, and moved to Asheville, where I've been wanting to live forever. So it's a new life, it's a new day, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
So you bring up 2 points that I wanna bring up and clarify, is that something that I always hear in these interviews is, number one, how instrumental diet and what you put in your mouth, what you put in your body, the effect that it can have, the positive effect that people notice when they start eating like more fruits and vegetables, for example.
Right.
And just paying attention to it more and trying to eat cleaner. And the other was the lifestyle change that you mentioned. So you moved from Charlotte to Asheville, right? That was the direct move.
Correct.
And those are two totally different places. Charlotte, there's no mountains. It's a bigger city. It's probably warmer there because it's lower. And in Asheville, you have, I don't know what to call it, the magic of the mountains, which is why we moved here also.
Exactly. It's a wonderful place, and also because there's so much support here for alternative medicine, and there's more respect, I think, and open-mindedness than there are in many places. So the resources here are amazing, and that's made a big difference. And as far as the mountain lifestyle too, I find that stress is a huge trigger, in addition to whatever you can control with diet, exercise, supplements. It's huge before every big flare, I was under a tremendous amount of stress. So just having the motivation to adopt a lifestyle that's less, do more self-care, say no more easily. I'm much better at saying no than I used to be.
Yeah, that can be a challenge for some people sometimes. Well, I love everything that you've shared. It's really amazing. So back to rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. Go ahead with each of those. Yeah.
I would say the RA is about a 2. Sometimes I still have bouts of fatigue, but the joint pain just really almost 0.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the iritis, I would say about a 4, because there
Not as
still are
severe.
some flares, but they're much less severe. And I know the signs now, and I know how to go, okay, I see what's about to happen. Let's address that now.
Mm-hmm.
And the multiple chemical sensitivities, I would say maybe a 3.
Wow.
If I'm in around smoking, then I feel it if I'm around certain situations. But I can walk down the household cleaners aisle, although I don't buy anything there.
Right. That is actually instrumental in dealing with multiple chemical sensitivities, is removing items like that from your daily life.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, those numbers are really amazing. So from an 11 to 2 with the RA, with the iritis 8.5 to 4, and with the MCS an 8 to a 3. And I love the honesty with the numbers, because healing doesn't always take us down to a 0 with what we have going on, and that's okay. Improvements are enough for us to know that our body is doing that work every single day to get us better. And it really does work for us all the time. And so, yeah, so those numbers are truly amazing. I'm so happy for you that these numbers are so much better, and you're not as debilitated as you've been in the past. Uh, you know. So closing up, what would be your advice to others going through something similar?
Don't give up. No matter what, do not give up, and don't listen to anything that tells you that you can't get better, that you can't live a pretty normal. You may not live, you won't get exactly the life you had back. I had to make a whole lot of changes, but I feel like I have a better life now. I feel like I have a life that's much more in tune with who I really am and how I want to be living. So the losses long term, I'll take it.
I love that. I love that. Wonderful advice, Pamela, and thank you so much for coming up here and doing this interview and sharing your wonderful story with everyone. It truly is inspiring.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for everything that you're putting out in the world, and
Oh,
nice to be a part of this.
thank you. I appreciate it. What is your website, Pamela? We'll put it at the bottom of this interview.
Thank you very much. www.pamelashook.com.
Easy. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us for My Healthy Story, an interview series to inspire health and hope. Like I said, you'll see Pamela's website link down at the bottom of this interview on my website, which is Mandi with an I, Palmer.com. Thank you.